on Facebook. And again, for folks who are just joining us, if you feel uncomfortable being videoed publicly, feel free to either turn off your video, or you can access the meeting later if you want to watch it later. But we wanted to make this a public meeting, so this was one of the best ways that we had to do that. And I really appreciate everyone being here. My name is Amy Prusso. I'm one of the co-conveners of the legislature's Keiki Caucus. The Keiki Caucus was created almost 30 years ago, I believe. And actually, Judith Clark can help me because she has been involved in it for almost the entire time, I believe. But one of the primary conveners, or I would say primary actors, was Senator Susie Chun Oakland. We're hoping that she's able to join us today. But the purpose of today's
she has come on.
Excellent.
I'm sorry, speaker has come on, rather.
Speaker has come on. Okay, perfect. So Vice Speaker Mizuno, if you could provide us with a little bit of historical overview of the Keiki Caucus and talk a little bit about our shared purpose.
Sure, happy to do that. Thanks, Judith and Matt LaPreste, for elevating me to speaker. I'm just a vice speaker, but thank you. Yes, the caucus started years ago. Now keep in mind, Hawaii was the first state in the nation to have a Children and Youth Day. That was the first Sunday in October. Really big and groundbreaking because we wanted to focus on good policy for our youth, for our Keiki. And again, you've heard Judith, Dennis, Susie, a lot of us say this time and time again. It's true, the kids, our Keiki, are our state's most important resource. They represent our future, and we've got to invest in them if we want to have a bright future for our state. That was continued on with Senator Suzanne Chun Oakland and Representative Dennis Arakaki. They actually then had another bill which passed into law to have the entire month of October identified as Keiki Caucus Month. From there, you can ask Judith about it. We've been doing summits, and this is great because this is where you have the youth. I've got, when my nephew was like 11 or 12 years old, he was angry because he said, I don't know why I should join. I don't pass any bills. It's adults. You got to be 18 years or older. Not true. Not true. We've got a lot of our Keiki that crafted bills, crafted ideas that we crafted into bills that passed into law. School bullying was one of them. Suicide prevention, bills on the environment. So our Keiki have done a great job. And just because they're not 18 years or older does not mean their fingerprints are not on some of the bills that we pass every year or every other year. So we're very honored. And Amy, you've been doing a bang up job. Thank you so much. Well organized. And Matt was also our co-convener, and he's a great ally. And we've got our senators on board with us. So hopefully we can have a really good year. Now, Amy, should we let Senator Chun Oakland say a few words? Because again, she is the originator. Her and Representative Arakaki started this. Kind of maybe give us a 5-minute overview, and then we can go back to your agenda thereafter. If it's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be very welcome.
Senator Chun Oakland, if you're on, if you want to share with us a little bit, and then we're going to go back to Amy, and she's going to follow through with the agenda. Thank you so much, Amy, and everyone. Thank you.
I don't see Susie.
Susie on yet?
She doesn't seem to be here.
I don't think she's here.
Okay.
She didn't know. Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. So Susie, shall we go back to Amy? Amy, you want to follow through with your agenda?
Sure. And actually, I think this is a good time for Judith Clark to say a few words about the Children and Youth Summit, because that is such a foundational part of our work. And then I'll ask Senator Ocasio to talk a little bit about our process.
Aloha.
Hey, Judith.
Every year, young people gather at the state capitol building where for the annual Hawaii Children and Youth Summit, where they are tasked with answering the question, what do we need to do to make Hawaii a better place to live, learn, and work? And through collective action, they come up with recommendations for legislative action each year. Two of the Keiki Caucus bills this year are based on recommendations from the 2021 Children and Youth Summit. Our young people are part of our communities. They need to be part of the decisions that affect their lives. They are our future, and their voice needs to be heard. Thank you, legislators, for listening to Hawaii's youth.
Thank you so much for that, Judith. And Senator Ocasio, if you could talk a little bit about the process that we use in working to develop consensus over the interim to develop our bill package, please.
Aloha, thank you, Senator Laura Ocasio, representing Hilo. I'm honored to be here amongst you all today, humbled and grateful. This has been a really eye-opening, as one of the newest legislators, it's been a really eye-opening to be part of this process and see the amazing collaboration of legislators, organizations, stakeholders, knowledgeable individuals, professionals, students, and just the outreach into our community to work together. One is education. I've learned so much by even participating myself of what folks bring to the table, the stories that they tell, the knowledge that they have, and the work that they do. Also with consensus building, creating meaningful legislation, literally for the sake of our future and for our Keiki. So as far as bills, all these consensus building and collaborative efforts amongst all the stakeholders coming together, working with legislators and coming up with the language for the needs in our community. And then as far as the caucus, presenting them to the caucus and then everyone voting on the legislation before us to choose the top priorities. I just have to say it's been really meaningful to hear the voices and to be able to amplify the voices and ideas of our youth and to see what impacts them and that they come with solutions. And again, the advocates that are working with students on a daily basis in many different avenues, bringing that to the table. So mahalo.
Thank you so much. I wanted to quickly just apologize. There are 100 participants on the Zoom, and I was not aware that I had a limit. I thought I had a 500 person capacity. I'm checking that right now with my staff, but if you are in the waiting room and you're waiting to get on, we are working on getting you in. So thank you for your patience, and thank you everybody for joining us. I'm grateful to have that kind of problem. So I wanted to move to the contents of the bill package. So we'll be able to introduce 5 bills this session. The first bill we'd like to discuss is a bill that's being introduced by Representative Jackson Sayama. And we're gonna have him talk a little bit, provide a little bit of an overview of the bill. And then Elizabeth Lacambra is gonna talk a little bit about why it's important. So Representative Sayama, are you available?
Yes, thank you so much, Amy, and thank you so much for your leadership in this caucus, and everyone for all your work in advocating for our Keiki. They certainly need it during this pandemic and continuing onward. I'm really happy to introduce this legislation on behalf of the Keiki Caucus. This bill would appropriate over $6 million, excuse me. There we go. This bill would appropriate over $6 million towards DOE's resource for education, athletics, culture, and health, or the REACH program, which supports public schools in their after-school programs for middle and intermediate school students. So, this bill, for me, is really important. Pre-pandemic, and especially during the pandemic, we understand how important after-school care programs are, not only for students, but for their parents too. And it's important for me that this legislature will support their efforts in these programs. So I'll pass it on now for further support.
Thank you so much. And Elizabeth, I saw you on earlier. Are you available?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, so aloha everyone. My name is Elizabeth Lacambra. I am a senior at Damien Memorial, and I'm speaking on behalf of after school programs. So basically, I attended Kalakaua Middle from 6 to 8, and I was a participant in after school all stars at Kalakaua. And I think the best way to describe it is it's like a one of a kind experience. I think, for example, I was able to expand my hobbies. Like I learned how to dance hula. I dipped my toes in like a little hip hop dance. I did Tahitian dance. I did arts and crafts. I really dipped my toes into things that I didn't think that I would normally be comfortable doing. But, I went outside of my box and I did it. So another thing that after school programs do for me is in after school all stars, we had a routine, and it really taught me, like time management as well as having a steady work ethic. So for example, we would have like study hour, and we would always have that before our enriching activities. So it was always teaching me like, oh, let's like bam out all the hard things now so we don't have to do it later. So my work ethic now is like, like let's do it, like let's do something fun after it. So another thing is that I wasn't good in academics at first, but after school all stars really fostered a healthy and family-like environment where it felt like mentor to mentee, or it felt like mother to daughter or father to daughter. And it was a really nice relationship, and I was able to create friends that I never thought I would have. So with that being said, without funding, these programs would not be able to have such a positive impact, especially on me. I was a really introverted girl. And then when the time came, when I got to high school, I really like blossomed, like I did student government, I did band, I take honors and AP courses. I was on a full ride I'm currently on a full ride scholarship at Damien Memorial. So without after school all stars, I wouldn't have broken out of my shell. So I'm, I'm so grateful. I'm so nervous too, but this really shaped me into the person I am today. Thank you.
That was wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, that was really beautiful. And now I feel even more strongly about after school programs. So I wanted to next introduce Representative Janae Capella. If she's on, she has been a longtime advocate in the area of sex trafficking and has done a lot of work on that even prior to her election. And she's introduced 2 bills this session that are going to be incorporated into our bill package. And I'm going to ask her to speak about both of those bills if she's available.
I'm here. Aloha, everyone. Janae Capella. I represent Kona and Ka'u in the State House. Elizabeth, listening to you speak made my heart so happy. It is the happiest I think I have been all day. So thank you so much for all of your efforts. But I am so excited that we have 2 bills that have made it into the Keiki Caucus package addressing child sex trafficking and sex trafficking here in our state. We know that it's a huge issue. Unfortunately, here in Hawaii, we have the highest number of trafficking victims per capita in the entire country. And we also know that while sex trafficking begins with our children, it ends with us, every single one of us coming to the table to find a solution. So I'm so happy that there are 2 bills that have made it in to address this. The first one is a bill to mandate that the DOE provide a training to every single teacher, administrator, staff member on campus because we know that teachers are oftentimes the first responders, and they know when they see changes in their students. So providing an opportunity for them to be able to learn and understand how they can take action and recognize signs, symptoms, and the possibility of a child being trafficked. The second is a bill that authorizes DHS to connect with a victim service provider to operate an emergency shelter for child trafficking survivors. This is incredibly important. This last year, we have one emergency shelter in the state for child sex trafficking victims. And this past year, it almost shut down due to a misunderstanding with some of the funding. So this would make sure that the state is providing that funding. And we also know that it would approximately be only $40,000 a month to ensure that we have a space like this open to take trafficking survivors who are children, to have a safe space for them so that they can get the services, but also the healing space that they need. So I'm so excited that both of these have made it into the package and that we can continue to ensure that trafficking no longer exists on our shores.
Thank you so much, Rep. Capella. And I think that this is a perfect example of the ways in which there's a really clear nexus between the vision of the youth and the priorities of the youth as expressed in the Children and Youth Summit and the legislators, because the Children and Youth Summit also submitted proposals that addressed sex trafficking. So I really appreciate Rep. Capella's work on this. Next, I'd like to move to Representative Mariyoshi, who is introducing a vaping ban. And then I'm gonna ask two students, Zoe Duan and Joshua Ching, to talk a little bit about why you think that that legislation is so important.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I would love to have introduced a general vaping ban, but this ban is only on flavored vaping products, which tend to target kids. The bill is fairly simple. It'll ban the sale of flavored vaping products, which will greatly reduce the supply of flavored vaping products out there. So while any product is going to have somewhat of a black market, the hope is that kids who have access to much less money will not be able to afford flavored vaping products anymore. 95% of smokers start before the age of 21, and 81% of youth have tried a flavored nicotine product as their first tobacco product. So these products really are a gateway into nicotine addiction. What really hit home for me is that 31% of middle schoolers have tried vaping, and that's the age of student that I used to teach when I was a DOE teacher. So that really struck a chord in me that a third of my students would have been vaping right now or would have tried a flavored vaping product. It's really targeting kids. That's what makes it very insidious. And it's disguising nicotine, which is a highly, highly addictive drug, as a candy flavored product. We're hooking the next generation of kids, and we're going to have to deal with all of the healthcare problems that follow. A recent study showed that the state would save about $48 million in future healthcare costs by simply banning flavored vaping products. So again, this bill is very simple. It's going to make flavored vaping products, it's going to ban the sale of flavored vaping products generally, which is going to greatly reduce the amount out there for our kids to get addicted to nicotine. And that's it. We're just trying to stop selling drugs to kids.
I really appreciate your advocacy on this, Representative Mariyoshi, because I remember when we first came into the building in 2019, this was one of the first in that session and one of the strongest advocates of a ban on flavored vaping. So I really appreciate your work on this. And I was hoping to have Zoe Duan speak briefly about why you think this is important, and followed by Joshua Ching, both students who have been working on this and working with Hi-Fi on this issue.
Thank you. Aloha, everybody. My name is Joshua Ching, and I'm a current senior at Kamehameha Schools, Kapalama.
I don't think we can hear you, Zoe. Josh, maybe if you can speak first, and then if she's having audio problems, then we can circle back to her.
Okay. We are both Zoe and I are spokespeople for the Coalition for Tobacco-Free Hawaii's Youth Council, and we'll be speaking on their behalf today to formally introduce our policy priority for the 2022 legislative session. This year, our council will be pushing for two separate bills, one that will end the sale of flavored tobacco products, which is supported by the Keiki Caucus, and another that will hopefully increase regulation on the industry through tax parity, permitting and licensing, and closing online loopholes. In 2019, the most recent data from Hawaii available, 18% of middle school students reported having used e-cigarettes in the past 30 days, which is more than 3 times the national average. For high school students, e-cigarettes rates sit at 31%, slating Hawaii as one of the top states in the nation for e-cigarette use. Statistics, however, can only tell so much of the story. A primary reason that youth use rates top charts is because of the more than 15,500 mostly candy-flavored e-cigarette and e-liquid products filling shelves. A majority of youth started using tobacco through a flavored product. And while the tobacco industry claims that it doesn't market to youth, the production of flavors like POG, Hawaiian Sweet Roll, and Mauna Dew tell a different story. Their actions speak far louder than their words. Menthol flavored products as well have helped to hook generations of Native Hawaiians, African Americans, and Filipinos through specific targeting by the industry, whether through media campaigns or ads in zip codes, predominantly represented by marginalized communities. By allowing the tobacco industry to continue their marketing efforts unfettered in communities where death by lung disease occurs at higher rates, the long history of corporate exploitation and public health disparities will only persist. This is the primary reason why our council is continuing our efforts to end the sale of flavored tobacco products, including menthol, to put an end to a long legacy of tobacco companies exploiting children and minorities for profit.
Thank you so much. And I'm wondering if Zoe is able to join us, or maybe she can be available for questions if her audio is not working. Zoe, are you still experiencing technical difficulties?
Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
thank you. Excellent. Good. Yes. Yes.
Okay, yay. So, hello, everyone. I'm Zoe Dawn, and I'm a current senior at Punahou School. And just continuing off of what Josh was saying, however, ending the sale of flavored tobacco can only go so far. The youth vaping epidemic is systemic in nature, after all. Currently, there is no tobacco tax attached to e-cigarettes. Our bill, if instituted, would tax e-cigarettes in the same way other tobacco products are in our state. Tobacco taxes, according to Dr. Arnold Levinson of the Colorado School of Public Health, is the most equitable strategy to reduce smoking, since smokers from lower incomes are the most likely to quit when prices rise sharply, but will pay a smaller total share of the new tax revenues than smokers of higher income. Permitting and licensing, moreover, would allow for a more efficient enforcement of Tobacco 21 laws and taxation. Requiring face-to-face purchases through restricting online sales would also help to close loopholes existing via the internet.
We'd also like to remind our legislators that youth penalties are not an effective approach to reducing youth tobacco use. Youth who turn to tobacco often do so to cope with complex feelings ranging from anxiety to body dysmorphia, because not every teen has a trusted adult they can confide in. By slapping fines in the hundreds of dollars on kids caught vaping, we're not only punishing them for an addiction caused primarily by big tobacco's marketing, but telling them that their mental health, their safety and security isn't worth an alternative provided by the government, that it's their fault instead of finding ways to get them the help that they might need. Youth penalties are not the answer.
Thank you so much. Sorry. So we're gonna, yeah. Thank you so much, Zoe and Josh, for your eloquent articulation of the reasons that youth support this bill, and for your long time advocacy. We really appreciate your organizing on this issue. We're going to move on to the last bill in our Keiki Caucus package, because we also have another part of the agenda that deals with the Children's Action Network and then also HSTA. So the last bill in the package was actually the top priority for the Children and Youth Summit, and that was comprehensive sex education. And in particular, an approach that destigmatizes and is inclusive and accurate, and requires that it be taught in all schools. So this will be a stretch for the Department of Education, and we look forward to working with them. And there are two students who are going to be speaking on this. Inez Anderson from Roosevelt High School, if you could speak first, and then Amelie Sepulveda from Pearl City High School, if you could follow her and just talk about why you think that this legislation is important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Persa. My name is Inez Anderson. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm currently a senior at Roosevelt High School. I'm a member of the Oahu Teen Council, which is a peer-led education program with Planned Parenthood, and I have been a peer educator with them for 2 years now. I joined Teen Council because I want to give other students the education that I wish I had access to, especially when it comes to LGBTQ+ inclusive sex ed and an education about gender and sexuality in general. Today, I'm here in support of the Inclusive and Comprehensive Sex Ed Bill because I believe that it is a step in the right direction towards providing medically accurate and inclusive sex ed for all students, which is a vital part of a complete education, which is unfortunately often lacking in our school system. Above all, I'm here because I know that legislation like this can have a very real impact on the lives of Hawaii teens and young people. I was at the Capitol when marriage equality was legalized in Hawaii, 9 years old, and waving a pride flag as tall as I was. My driver's license has an X on it under sex in order to more accurately reflect my gender identity, which was made possible only 2 years ago. The world is changing quickly. More and more youth are identifying as part of the LGBTQ+ community every year, and their identities, experiences, reproductive health, and safety deserve to be reflected in the sex education curriculum. Although comprehensive sex education is already required by law for schools, that is not the reality that many students face. This bill is an opportunity for us to recommit to providing Hawaii's youth a sex education that is truly comprehensive and inclusive. On behalf of the Oahu Teen Council and the LGBTQ+ youth of Hawaii, I ask for your continued support of the Inclusive and Comprehensive Sex Ed Bill, as well as the Keiki Caucus package. Thank you for your time.
Mahalo, Inez. That was beautiful. And then Amelie Sepulveda, are you on with us? I'm sorry, there are so many faces. I'm not seeing you.
Hello. Okay. Hi, my name is Amelie Sepulveda. I'm a senior at Pro City High School. And today I'm here to talk to you about comprehensive and inclusive sex ed, something that our schools seriously lack. And this is important to me because of my experiences as a teen council member. Teen council has taught me so much about myself, my options, and my body, like my birth control options, where I can get tested for STIs, what consent looks like in a relationship, and more. And I believe this information gives me the power to protect myself and my body. And I think it's important that my peers be afforded the same opportunity. And this is an important issue in our state because our public schools' sex education is very poor. I've experienced it firsthand. In freshman year, I was given a computer course for health, and we practically breezed through the sex ed section, and there was little room to ask any real questions. And now in my senior year, I hear my peers ask questions about sex and their bodies all the time with nowhere to go for answers. In addition, comprehensive sex ed has been shown to reduce high-risk sexual behaviors while promoting safer sex, which in turn lowers the rate of teen pregnancy and STI transmissions. Thank you for listening, and I really hope you'll support this bill.
Thank you so much. I'm just so moved by these young people and grateful that they have such a great audience of allies and supporters and co-conspirators. So I'd like at this point, because that concludes our legislative package for the Keiki Caucus, and I'd like at this point to transition to Deb Zeisman, who I mentioned earlier is the Executive Director of Hawaii Children's Action Network, and I think that she has a legislative agenda that she'd like to share with you folks.
I do. Thank you so much, Representative Peruso. Can you allow me to share my screen? I do have some slides for.
I thought I made you the co-host. Let me double check. Oh no, I haven't yet. Okay, sorry.
It says it's disabled, but hi, nice to see everyone while she's doing that. It's wonderful to see so many friendly faces. Thank you so much to Representative Peruso and to Senator Ocasio and the other members of the Keiki Caucus for working with us over the last whole bunch of months. As she said, I'm Deborah Zeisman, and in my hat today, I'm with Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, which is our political side. Let's see, I think I can share.
Hey, Deb, you sound a little bit like you're in a tunnel. Can you like move, I don't know, something?
Try the joy of the internet. Okay, can folks see the slides? No? Yes, okay. Thank you all so much. So it is our privilege and honor to convene the Hawaii Children's Policy Agenda. We have now been doing this convening for about 6 years. And we'll jump into it. So we convene this conversation, but we bring together many, many community experts. So in a similar way as Judith presented, bringing together teen voices, we begin working each year in the summertime and have a very open process to bring together nonprofits, folks from academia. So it is really a fantastic group every year of people who are experts in their field bringing together research-backed solutions for our lawmakers that we know will improve the lives of children from prenatal all the way up to young adults. I don't think we actually have an ending cutoff date, but again, we look across the spectrum, so down to the babies as well. And we've often partnered very much as well with Hawaii Youth Services Network and the Teen Summit as well. So this year, we brought together over 40 community champion organizations, and actually also a growing number of parent and family leaders are coming to the table as well with policy ideas. I see some of them on the Zoom today. This year's agenda has 24 priorities listed, some of which you've already heard of, so some are covered that we just spoke about, with 15 different lead organizations and individuals. And they do span the gamut. So this shows you, we have policy priorities in education, in safety, in economic supports for families, family strengthening, and in health. And the full agenda, we're not going to talk about for to save some time today, but the agenda is now up. You can go to this website and see it at any time with the details. And briefly, I want to just talk about a few of the things that are in there that we won't go into detail. And then we have 4 speakers to highlight a couple of the bills. So Aloha Care is the champion to extend Medicaid postpartum coverage up to a year. American Lung Association is championing asthma-friendly schools. Blueprint for Change is working on continuing to push for legislation for children and families of incarcerated individuals. So for visitation for those who have family members that are incarcerated. The Hawaii After School Alliance has a suite of programs to continue investing in after school programming. And I know someone said, if anyone, we've seen the case today made for why we need more investment in after school programs. So after school programming, as well as summer learning, which I think we have certainly seen in these pandemic years, the importance of those programs and where we need to invest more. The Hawaii Diaper Bank is raising the issue of ending taxes on diapers to ensure that they are affordable for all of our families. The Hawaii Oral Health Coalition is working on legislation to restore adult Medicaid dental benefits. Let's see, Hawaii Public Health Institute discussed already the tobacco sales, and then they also have a piece of legislation on safe routes to schools. Planned Parenthood is supporting the Reproductive Health Equity Act. The Raise Up Hawaii Coalition is backing the living wage for all workers. RISE, which I think I saw RISE on today, has legislation to extend services beyond age 18 and financial benefits for unaccompanied youth. And then we have some parent leaders that are working on a neonatal family leave, paid family leave for children in the NICU. And what was it? Brief overview, fast and furious. Okay, I will speak rapidly as well on two of the priorities that my organization is supporting this year. So we will have a suite of bills that support early care and learning. So child care and preschool and everything from 0 up to 5. We have certainly seen these last few years that we treat childcare often like a luxury privilege for families when it is abundantly clear to most of us on this call that it is a community good that we need to be investing in similar ways that we support roads and bridges and libraries and public schools. So we will have a suite of bills to increase investment in the workforce so we can have access, because we know right now sometimes childcare and pre-K is not even accessible to any families, and also a bill to increase childcare subsidies again. They were cut back last year, but to increase child subsidies to ensure that it is affordable to all of our families. So, and then the second measure from HCAN Speaks is the Earned Income Tax Credit. And this is a measure that we have had this in statute for the last 4 years, supporting our working families, our lower wage families. This really does give families a larger tax refund. So if we don't do anything about it this year, it will, what's called sunset, so it will go away. And we want to make sure that that tax credit is made permanent and also refundable. So giving families a larger tax refund as well. And I think we have seen so many families struggling economically in this time, and we're particularly concerned in 2022 because many of the federal supports are being pulled back as well. So for example, the child tax credit that we had in place at the federal level has just gone back down to a lower level effective in January. And we're seeing reduction in other things as well, like support for renters. So our two priorities are helping get more families funding and for childcare and giving them a larger tax refund come April from the state. That was quick. Our next speaker, so I have three folks that came together in our process this year that would like to highlight their bills. And so our next speaker will be Judith Clark from the Hawaii Youth Services Network.
Aloha again. I'm here representing the voice of the youth who attended the Hawaii Children and Youth Summit this year. One of the persistent themes over at least the last 10 years is that our young people tell us that they need better preparation in real life skills. This year, one of their priorities was to provide more career and technical education-based electives to give more accessibility to students to learn real life skills by expanding the spectrum of more hands-on electives that would facilitate needs of the students based on their career goals. While it is not part of the Keiki Caucus package, we hope that our legislators will listen to the youth voice and take action on this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I, Amy, can I jump in for a second as Mizuno?
Sure.
I like what Judy said, so because we pared down on the number of package bills, in the past we had 10, now it's down to 5. I think, Amy, Matt, Senator Casio, maybe we should see if we can't get a list of Keiki Caucus bills that we support, not only the 5 in a package, but again, there's probably going to be, I would say, 8 to 12 other bills that we fully support. They just didn't make the cut on that 5. Put that in some type of memo from us to the colleagues and all the members. That way, when these bills come up for hearing, we can send out the email notice saying, hey, guess what? This bill is coming up, and I know this was on the Keiki Caucus radar. So all of you, if you can submit testimony or via Zoom, show up, that'll be great to support the bill. I think we should, if it's okay with you.
No, absolutely. We can absolutely do that.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks.
Representative Peruso has a copy of the full recommendations that she can share with you.
And I'll put the link up as well too. So we will circulate to everyone the full list of 24 policy priorities from the community, which include the youth priorities in there as well. So that would be great. And I would say for community folks as well, if you are not on our email list for HCAN Speaks, we do keep the community updated on those 24 priorities. So we will also send out, like, the bill is up for a hearing and you can testify as well. So we're happy to keep everyone engaged.
Deb, if you and Judith Clark and others can update the list, I believe Amy Peruso has the master list of all the Keiki Caucus members. I know sometimes we lose some people, and during session we gain some people. If you can update her so she has a solid list with everybody on there, that'll be very greatly appreciated.
Sure, happy to help with that.
Thank you.
Yep. Our next speaker is Leslie Bonock.
Hello, everybody. I'm Leslie Bonnick with the Hawaii Association of School Psychologists. These are 2 bills that we have put out the last few years. We are working with the Department of Education as well for backing, as well as the Hawaii State Teachers Association, the DCCA Board of Psychology and Hawaii Psych Association. We really are wanting to get credentials for school psychologists. Why is this important? Hawaii remains the only state in the nation without a credential for school psychologists. So We don't have protection. So if somebody doesn't like something a school psych does, or they don't have proper credentialing to do the position, there's nowhere for a parent or a staff member to bring those complaints to, which is a little bit dangerous considering there was a sunset evaluation that said all psychologists need licensing back in the 80s in the state of Hawaii. The other opportunity that would allow for is billing for Medicaid for school psychological services. We know that during COVID that mental health issues have been on the rise. In my 11 years as a school psychologist in the state of Hawaii, we've had about 1/3 of vacant positions, as well as our psych examiners who used to help with some of the cognitive testing retire. So most school psychologists are actually doing the job of 2 people right now. So it's really hard to recruit and retain, especially when we don't have a credential. Additionally, we are looking for a national certification parity. Currently, teachers and counselors are eligible to receive a bonus for being nationally certified. Since the National Association of School Psychologists does have the national credential available for school psychologists, the other piece of recruiting and retaining highly qualified school psychologists would be to get a parity bill to extend that for school psychologists as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leslie. And our last speaker as part of the Children's Policy Agenda is Osa Tui from HSTA.
Oh, thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't know I was going to be part of your presentation, but no problem. So mahalo to everybody for having us and the entire Keiki Caucus. What I heard today was so great. I am Osa Tui, president of the Hawaii State Teachers Association. You know, our educators want to provide the best education possible for our Keiki, and the one critical component to that is ensuring that we can provide our Keiki the highly qualified teachers that they deserve. What can we do to recruit and retain teachers so that our students aren't relegated to long-term substitutes? I'm going to touch upon a few of HSTA's priorities. We see that more and more teachers are opting to retire as soon as they can. Many of the teachers who now or soon will be eligible to retire have suffered from what's known as salary step compression. Recently, the teacher salary schedule has been loosely aligned to years of service. However, if you go back a decade and more, that wasn't the case. And now our veteran teachers sacrifice salary step increases so that starting pay back then could be increased. But now we have teachers with over 30 years of service who've not been able to get to the top of our salary schedule. And these are the teachers who have honed their craft over the years and know our students the best. But they're also the ones that feel used and abused over the years and feel disrespected and taken advantage of. If salary step compression can be rectified, teachers will have incentive to stick around and continue to make use of their expertise for the betterment of our Keiki. We're also supporting bills that ensure automatic step increases that are called for in our contract are actually implemented to help recruit teachers and give them the ability to plan long-term. Finally, with regard to salary, we're also supporting bills to eliminate the cap on salary classification. Moving along classes requires teachers to engage in their own professional development, but a very large portion of our members have gotten to the highest classification and are not incentivized to pursue further professional development. Eliminating the cap would allow us to negotiate in the future for further classifications. How do we get our younger teachers to come and stay? One of the significant challenges is providing affordable housing, including affordable rentals and pathways to home ownership. Many teachers over the years have found the love of teaching here, but when the realities of starting a family and owning a home here are not within reach, they flee our state and our Keiki lose out as a result. And then there's just another teacher's position that needs to be filled. Housing will help to provide some stability to our workforce and allow our schools to keep teachers who currently have no other choice but to move away. We also want to ensure that there are additional dedicated sustainable funding sources for our public schools. As you probably know, HST has put forward a number of proposals in the past, and we look forward to seeing various proposals that our legislators have this session for revenue generation. And lastly, I want to go back. We look forward to working with legislators to fund the shortage differentials, which have proven effective in attracting and retaining educators in special education, Hawaiian immersion, and hard-to-staff geographic areas. While some may say that we've already attracted teachers, so why keep the differentials? It's also about retaining them. If a teacher makes the same amount teaching regular education versus special education, for example, they will then leave the special education position. With that, I'm going to just put a copy of our priorities into the chat. Thank you everyone so much.
Thank you. And that is it. The link is here on the slide, and we can put it in the chat as well for all of the different items from all the different organizations and coalitions for this year's Children's Policy Agenda. Thank you so much, Rep. Russo.
Thank you so much, Deb, and the whole group at Children's Policy Agenda. I really appreciate your work coming together, really hammering out your priorities. I know that's sometimes really challenging work. And I did want to say to the last presenter, I mean, I appreciate all of the contributions of the presenters, and in particular, I know what a struggle it's been to recruit and retain teachers and the depths of the teacher shortage crisis. So I very much appreciate HSTA's engagement with the Children Policy Agenda. I think that's a positive step forward. So I wanted to open up the forum if there are journalists who have questions or community members who have questions, please feel free to use the reaction button at the bottom. You can raise your hand and then you'll jump to where I can see you. And if you just want to ask clarifying questions about the legislation, anybody can ask these questions. So this is our chance to have a conversation prior to session and make sure that everybody's on the same page, that we're clear about the direction in which we're headed. So, but if there are no questions, then we can adjourn this meeting. I'm not seeing any raised hands. I'm going to give it a minute or so. And in that time, I wanted to take this opportunity, since someone gave me, the screen, take this opportunity to really thank Vice Speaker Mizuno, without whose support we would not be able to do this kind of work. And Senator Ocasio, thank you so much for coming on board. And Senator San Buenaventura also has been working with us this session. We really appreciate their support. And then all of the members of the legislative members of the Keiki Caucus. This is work above and beyond their normal commitments to their constituents. And it really reflects a commitment to children, to our young people, and to creating the conditions necessary for their flourishing. So I'm deeply appreciative. I see a question from Mr. Dayton, if you wanted to go ahead and ask, and then whoever you ask can answer your question.
Hi, thank you. This question is for Representative Matayoshi. I'm interested, obviously the ban on flavored vaping products is not a new issue. I mean, you've been bringing it up for a number of years, and it doesn't seem to make a lot of headway. And so I was wondering if you could explain to us maybe some of the politics that are behind this, and who are some of the major players who are supporting and blocking this initiative.
Well, I'd like to actually get my bill through, so I'm not going to talk too much about the people blocking, but I will be dealing with that issue in the background. I think I'm hopeful this year. I think other iterations of the bills have met with some resistance. This past interim, I've been meeting with the Department of Health, the Attorney General's office, and also Speaker Psyche and Representative or Chair Sylvia Luke, and both of them have signed on to the bill this year. Not the Keiki Caucus version, but I actually introduced a fairly similar vaping bill that I've been working on throughout. So honestly, I think no one here cares which bill passes as long as one of them passes. I mean, the important thing is to get this thing done. So I've been, working it since I've started, so this is going to be my 4th session trying to get this done. But, every year we make a little bit of progress. Every year we reach a couple more people or deal with a couple more issues that were pending, and I'm hopeful this will be the year. And if it doesn't happen this year, I'm going to be introducing it next year too. So, hopefully we get it done. But I'm certainly not stopping this fight.
Hey, Scott, can I jump in? This is Mizuno. Scott, yeah, I support your bill. The question of finding out who was against the bill, it's not too hard to ascertain. They just need to go and look at the testimony of the bills that flavor ban bill that we've introduced for probably a few years before you came too, probably the last 7 or 8 years. Look for the testimony in opposition. That is your opposition to the flavor ban bill, vaping bill. Thanks.
Although the first step is going to be to get its hearings through the health committee or whatever committees it's assigned to. So traditionally this kind of bill has been assigned to the Health Committee first. That'll be our first step in getting this thing passed. So hopefully, I know last year we didn't get a hearing for the bill, so there isn't going to be any testimony for it. But yeah, we'll just kind of take it one step at a time and see where it goes.
Got it. I think Don had a question for you. Don Weissman.
Don, do you have a question, or is that just a comment that you posted in the
This
chat?
was just a comment that
Okay.
it needs to be comprehensive, or any loopholes that the tobacco industry will take advantage of and just
Right.
create a whole new problem.
Right. So traditionally, we've had this conversation around menthol too. I saw Esme Infante in the bar raising your hand. Did you have a
Yes,
question?
hello. Hi,
Hello.
yes, thank you. Thank you, Rep. Russo. Just by way of introduction, yes, this is Esme Infante. I'm now with the Star Advertiser. I recognize many faces in the Zoom. This is my second time in my career covering education now, and I'm very excited to do it for the Star Advertiser. My question today has to do with loss of learning. I just, over the past few days, sat through a number of hearings and had various conversations with various school officials about the loss of learning in the pandemic. I was surprised to see, unless I'm missing something, that I don't see anything in the highest priorities for the Keiki Caucus specifically addressing that concern. Is there a reason for that?
I think actually, and Paula Adams can speak more to this, but I do think that the after-school programming, the intention of providing more funding for the after-school programming is to not just provide support around extracurricular activities, but that's also a space wherein young people get additional tutoring. So that is actually a way for us to think about how to wrap around support for those students who have experienced loss of learning. But Paula, did you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, exactly that, Amy, that after school programs can be a great resource to support accelerating learning, and we need more after school programs, and we need more summer learning programs because the learning loss is happening right now in front of our eyes. And I think these programs can be a bridge to help students achieve academic gain in these after school programs and summer programs.
And then if there's, if we have any other partners who wanted to speak to that, just raise your hand or jump in, also fine. But I think that's, and because we're so limited, right? We look at the DOE's budget and we recognize that they are really prioritizing learning loss in terms of the funding allocation they have with the federal funds. So at the legislature, we're kind of looking at, okay, what are the pukas? What are they missing? So that's been our approach.
Thank you very much.
Are there any additional questions? Anybody in the community have clarifying questions? This is a lot. And I did love Vice Speaker's recommendation. We had been talking about that actually, coming to consensus on looking at the bills that are introduced and then sending something out to the Keiki Caucus around bills that we will be supporting because they were already part of the ballot, or we've already discussed them and we've had meetings about them and been educated about the intent behind these bills. So we'll send out something to that effect, and we'll send it also to the Children's Action Network so they can hopefully also circulate that out to their membership. And then Deb, I know that you folks are going to be organizing around, I don't know if all of your priorities have bills introduced this session, but maybe you can talk a little bit about your strategy, or Nicole.
Well, and a special thanks to Nicole Wu and my team who does all the heavy lifting on this. So I believe all of the bills will be introduced. And that was where I was looking, at least as of last week. And if you sign up on our list, we do send out alerts and notifications on those bills that are in the Children's Policy Agenda list for the year. So if you're not on that list, you might want to, and you're interested in those, let us know.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I am not seeing any more questions. So I think that because we've almost hit the hour mark, and I'm not seeing any more questions or comments. Folks did share information and content in the chat, so please take a look at that. I'll leave the meeting open for a bit so people can kind of review what the conversation they may have missed. But I wanted to go ahead and thank everybody for joining us. And I'm really sorry again that I did not realize that so many people would be joining us. I'm happy to see everyone, but I was told that I should have made it a webinar, but I feel like I would have missed out on seeing everybody. So I'm not sure. So next time, I think we're gonna have to organize it a bit differently. But I appreciate everybody's participation and I love seeing your faces. So thank you so much for joining us. And aloha.
Thank you very much, everyone. Great job.
Mahalo, Rep. Russo. Mahalo, everyone.
Mahalo, everyone.
Rep. Mizuno.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, take care.
Thanks, Rep. Russo.